Are you trying to apply for a position that's one level up, but you don't know how? Perhaps you're an individual contributor and you want to be in your first manager role. Or maybe you're already a manager and you can't figure out how to apply for director level roles. If either of these sound like you, stay tuned because you're going to learn the best resume, LinkedIn, and interviewing strategies on how to do this from engineering career coach Nader Mowlaee. Let's continue with the presentation. So where did we leave off?
What you should really have on your mind when you go into these conversations, when you go to these interviews, when you write content on your resume, on your cover letter, on your LinkedIn profile, even just before you start writing it, we're still in our head. We're still talking about the mind. Even when you speak with yourself, I want you to not talk so much or not emphasize so much where you come from, what your past experiences are, or what your skills are. They are important. So you need to think about them, but don't put the emphasis on them. Don't focus on them more than the time and the amount of energy and the amount of content you put on talking about the problems that you want to solve and the impact that creates. So again, when you communicate like this, when you write like this, when you speak like this, you come across as less selfish and more selfless. So rather than being self-absorbed and focused so much on you, you're focused on the problem that the company has and the impact they create for their customers. Look at the problem, talk about the problem first, and then you bring a solution. You are the solution provider, you're the problem solver. And then make sure you also talk about the outcome, the impact, the result of what happens when you, the solution provider, overcomes that problem. Talk about the problems you solve and the impact you can create for that company and their customers.
Problem, impact, and benefit to the company. I mean, that's all they really care about. When you put it that way, it's real simple. Do you have an example? Let's say I'm an individual contributor and I'm applying for my first manager role. Do you have an example of like how I could do that? I've not been an official leadership role, but maybe I've been de facto mentoring people on my team or training people, but I have not had the title of manager.
As a
If I could talk about.
mechanical engineering manager, I help mechanical designers and drafters, as well as our manufacturing team, improve their productivity in terms of how long it takes for them to submit designs from the design office to the manufacturing team so they can start the production and launch the production line faster and get products to the Canada customers sooner. So it's always what you do. Start by talking about what you do or talk about the problem. Those two can coexist together, but that you can shift them around. But it always ends with the outcome. So the outcome is measured either in time, cost, or quality. So if you're a product test manager or verification validation manager, you design and develop the test criteria and product test strategies, because that's the problem. Designing the test criteria, developing use cases, and actually helping your team perform tests in a laboratory environment, gathering the data, analyzing the data. Those are the problems that your team needs help with. As a test engineering manager, you need to help that team do what they do. You might come in defining the actual test criteria and helping them understand the use cases based on the product or the end user's requirements so that you can decrease the failure rate and increase the customer satisfaction rating on that product. As an engineer career coach, I help individuals improve their personal branding in terms of keyword optimization and storytelling so they can get interviews faster. Doug, you come in to help individuals develop their self-awareness, identify their own values, develop their leadership capabilities so they can successfully transition from a manager to a director and take their career to the next level and have the opportunity to maybe manage a P&L or impact the company's bottom line, bring in new business, whatever the outcome is at a director. All this information, believe it or not, actually comes out. It exists on a job description, especially a well-written job description. Sometimes the problem isn't there, but the problem is kind of like common sense.
Okay. Go on. I'm interested about that.
If we look at a job description and give you you see that is a problem statement. They may not say that we have this problem, but that's the primary core responsibility of that person.
Yeah.
It's normally the first bullet point under the list of responsibilities.
I like this. Reverse engineering the job description to prepare
That's
for.
it. That needs to be done. Whether
Yeah.
you're an IC, individual contributor, or a manager, they're telling you what needs to be done. They need someone to do that. Then you are bringing the solution and the impact. What is the impact? Is
Yeah.
projects or products being launched on time, speeding up the manufacturing process, or something related with time, or reducing the time it takes to test something and send it to the next stage of that product's development life cycle, or its cost. Use a cheaper material. If you're a material engineer manager, now it costs less to make the same product, or it could be quality related. Again, even better, use a cheaper material that has highest resistance to heat or environmental conditions, so it lasts longer and it's cheaper. You know what I mean? It's like double whammy.
What's jumping out at me here, Nader, at the end of the day, there's a human on the other side that's looking at this, and this is about human influence. And that's my specialty is just how do you use influence to increase your impact as a leader? The number one rule that, I'll say to everyone, everywhere, anytime, any place is you need to speak in terms of the other person's benefit. How do you speak in terms of the benefit to them? If you want to get someone to do something they want to do, there's two ways. Force, well, you don't have that opportunity as the job seeker. So then the other way is influence. And influence, the only way to do it is to get them to want to do it. And to get someone to want to do something, you have to say, what is the benefit to you? What's the benefit of hiring me? Is what you're saying. Why should
Yeah.
you hire me? This is what I can do.
What's
This
in
is
it
the
for me?
impact I'll have. Right. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's brilliant. I think this is so helpful because engineers, we don't think this way. We're kind of like direct and to the point. Like, this is what I do, and that's it. So this makes total sense. What's the next step? Where do we go from here?
Let's move forward. I love this Teddy Roosevelt quote that says, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. If you're not talking about the problems and solving those problems and creating the result that the whole business was built by. If you're interviewing at Ford and you're not talking about building better cars that are safer, that are more comfortable so you can go from point A to B faster, you've lost them. That's such a simple idea, but that's why an automotive company was built. And you got Tesla. Again, how can we do all what I've just told you, but now cheaper and more environmentally friendly? That should be the reason why you want to work for Tesla. That's where the
Hmm.
conversation starts. Then you can talk about how amazing they are and the designs that inspire you. There's hierarchy to the conversations we have, so we can show and demonstrate to them that we really care about the product and the company and the brand and how their company impacts their customers. Until we do that, they're not going to care about how much we know. But unfortunately, most people out there, whether they're engineers or not, they go right into look at my level of education, look at what I've done in the past, look at my resume, and therefore I demand.
I've seen it all the time. I see it. I've heard it on interviews, and I've seen it in resumes. Now, I've looked past that, but other managers aren't like me. Other managers don't go there. They expect you to prove yourself to them. It's human
Yeah,
nature.
we cannot lean on the past anymore. We got to lean forward. We got to focus on what we want to do, what our mission is, what is our purpose. And we're going to talk about purpose right now. That's all
Okay.
that matters. If we want to improve our communication, then we need to say things differently. The first and most foundational thing that I want to talk about are different elements of communication. So, personal communication is person to person communication, whether it's through text messages or emails, on the phone, audio only, or video format and something like that, or in person, which is the best way to communicate. We need to break this down into how effective we are in terms of getting the message across, getting our story across through the mode of conversation. If we're texting or emailing or messaging each other on LinkedIn, we can be only as effective as about 7%. So 7%
Mm.
of the entire conversation are just the words that we're writing, or here it says spoken words, but it's pretty much think about emailing someone. Think about submitting a resume, and that's it. You're not being effective. That's why resumes don't work. I
Mm.
normally say, even if your resume is made out of gold, like you printed it on a piece of 24 karat gold sheet, it really doesn't matter. First of all, it's not going to be found likely. And when they read it, there's no emotion, there's no voice. I don't know if you care about us. I don't know if you're passionate about our company product. I don't know that stuff. You have to show me. I have to hear that stuff to believe it, which is why it's better to communicate through voice, through audio, through the phone, through a Zoom call. It's going to be a lot more effective. Now we've got 7+38, we are as effective as about 45%. And to make it really better, which is why Zoom interviews have become really effective and have allowed people to make a lot of decisions on video, is because our body language, the way we look, and even in person, how we feel, the energy and the frequency we come across, it makes the conversation whole. Because I can See the words, hear the words, feel your energy, feel the tone of your voice, but also see your language, see your body language. Like, you care about it. Are you smiling? Are you comfortable? Or are you rigid and not happy looking, and you just look uncomfortable?
Do you look like you don't wanna be there?
You just look like you don't want to be there. With that said, this allows us to understand, after we know what to talk about, which is that big conversation, we need to make sure they know that we care. Another level of insights I want you to understand, like, what really matters to that company, and what should matter to you is, who you are as a person. Your identity is most important to them, because it's the identity that they trust or mistrust. It's identity,
Yeah.
personality, character. I like to use the word character. What is that person's character? That's your core that you're being evaluated by, surrounded by your values. A company has a set of core values. You should definitely have values. And are those values coming across in the conversation? Is this why you want to work for a company? Are you really passionate about what we do, how we do it, and the impact of what we create? Or no, your value is making another $500 per month so you can move to a bigger house or upgrade your car from a Toyota to a BMW. What do you value? And ultimately, your goals becomes more personal. What are your personal career development goals? Do you truly have that growth potential? You want to become a leader. You want to go from an individual contributor to a manager, which means you have drive. You have that hustle in you, which means you're going to be more productive. You're going to be a high performance employee. These are the three layers that are most important to the employers. If I have all the right goals and people know I have the right values, but they just don't like my character and my identity, like who I am, they're probably not going to hire me. They're not going to get
Mm.
it. You know what? That person isn't really honest. He only wants to get another employer. He wants to just get to that 1,000 clients. That's not
Yeah.
cool. Versus, you know what? No, he was super genuine. His values are aligned with mine. And see, his goal is actually my goal. There's alignment between there. So let me move forward with them. We all get evaluated consciously and subconsciously based on these three layers of who we are as a person.
It's all about trying to come from a place of working together, like, instead of trying to convince someone. Either way, I'm coming at it from a place of influencing people. That's my expertise. I'm not like a job seeker person, but at the same time, like, I see a lot of overlaps. You're influencing them is what you're doing, right?
Yeah. The principles of influence, it's embedded into the process, because again, I feel like we influence others and persuade them subconsciously and naturally. You get into leadership role, you go from being an individual contributor to a manager. Now you're actually beginning to go through corporate training. And as you go to, again, manager to director, you learn persuasion, you learn organizational persuasion, you learn sales skills, you learn partnership skills, you get into public speaking. So it just really depends on what you want to do.
Just going back to the core topic of how to jump levels, this is a great way to show you can influence too by influencing them. Influence is a big skill of leadership, and showing that you can win them over is, in a sense, selling your capabilities as a leader, especially
You
if you
have
don't
to, yeah.
have that previous background. It really showcases it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're someone listening to this conversation, you've never been a manager, but you're here trying to learn how to become a manager for the first time, I got news flash for you. You should already feel like a manager. You should be ready. If you're not sure about yourself, why should I be sure about you as an employer? If you don't trust you, why should I trust you?
We can sense confidence in other people. And like when we sense
Yeah,
it, we're attracted to it. And when we sense lack of confidence, then we're kind of unattracted to it in a sense.
no, it's all over their face. Body language is 55%. And as soon as they open their mouth and we ask them, so why do you want to be a manager? It takes no more than like 30 seconds to figure out if that person's confident or not. You have to physically be present.
You
So
have
it
to
just,
believe it.
you have to believe yourself first before you go into that interview. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time.
What's next in the process?
What's next? So I want to give you some insights, because now we're getting into the real core of what it takes to care and how to get our identity, values, and our goals across. I want to create alignment between your mission and your purpose. Again, being purpose driven is extremely important. Here's some data around how do we as consumers react or respond to purpose driven companies, data from marketing charts. It's really important for us to understand, why do companies position themselves and develop their brand around their purpose? For us to just believe that, okay, so I should do the same thing. If these companies are purpose driven and we are becoming more loyal to them and we feel stronger emotional connections to them and we are likely to defend them, when they're going through a tough time, or we're more proud to be associated to them. And that's the power of the brand or the logo. You want an Apple phone because you want an Apple phone. You want to wear Gucci because it's Gucci. You
Yeah.
want to go work at Tesla because it's a resume builder, career builder. So why don't we just look at ourselves as an organization, as a business of one, as an individual, so develop a professional brand around who we are, because when we position ourselves, when we write our content, when we present ourselves like that in interviews, the company or the employer or the business's reaction or response, believe it or not, is going to be similar. They're going to be more loyal to you. They're going to make sure they get back to you on time. They're going to make sure they follow up with you. They're going to make sure they let you know what the next interview is, and they're going to interview you faster. They're going to feel stronger if they can see that you really like their company and your purpose is aligned with their purpose, and they feel like they can trust you because, man, you just put on a show in that room. Like, we all have goosebumps after what you just
Yeah.
told us and how you talked about our product. We are emotionally, we're in. Can we go for lunch before you go? Lunch is on me. Like, I've seen companies do this because they don't want this guy to go out of the room, out of Tesla, and go to Cruise or go to another company and just interview there, because they know if they lose this guy, he's going to get an offer somewhere else on the same day. They're going to give him a verbal offer right there and then.
It's funny you say that because that happened to me in my very first job. I interviewed at a few companies, and the one that I ended up getting an offer, they offered me to lunch right after the interview. I must have said the right things. Later on, I worked there for many years, and my boss told me, "I wanted to make sure no one else got you. I really liked you. You really seem to fit well on the team," and all these things. It's an emotional decision. It's the same as like you buying that Amazon purchase. It's an emotional decision. You're buying because it feels good. It feels right. And sometimes you can't quantify it. And that's what you got to do. You got to make the other people feel that way.
It's exactly the same. We are emotional beings. Humans make more decisions emotionally than logically. It's been
Yes.
proven over and over and over again.
Yeah. If every decision was logical, like there'd be a whole different history of
Exactly, right?
mankind.
Like there would be no wars. But anyways, let's move on. So with that said, again, how do we find companies? How do we find some top challenges in the world, top problems, and how do we find companies that solve those challenges, solve those problems? Just a quick Google search away. Just look for top challenges in the field of, and enter your field. In the field of XYZ engineering, put in the product and the engineering product. So if you're in the medical device industry, put that. If you're in the structural engineering industry, put structural engineering. If you're in architecture design, put architecture design. If you're in consumer electronics, if you're in semiconductor manufacturing, whatever it is, just put it in there and see what comes up. There's tons of articles, or ask our good friend ChatGPT or another AI. Like, it really doesn't matter. I like to read, I like to study, looking at current issues in a particular sector, current issues in banking, in food manufacturing, in XYZ manufacturing, in whatever the product is. And then when you do that research, come back and look for companies focused on, and type in the problem, or type in the what it is that we're
Ah,
struggling with.
that's clever.
That's how I do my research. That's how I find my companies. Again, I've done this for forever, for over a decade.
I'm glad you're going through all this because, like, when you were saying like the problem, impact, benefit before, I was struggling. I was thinking like that all makes sense, but like, how do I figure these things out and whatnot? So this is very helpful because I'm sure a lot of engineers are wondering like, okay, how do I figure out these talking points and whatnot? So this is making sense to me.
The cool thing with this is that you actually will come across, I guarantee everybody, I still come across problems that I didn't know existed. You'll come across and you're like, wow, I didn't even think that was an issue. We have that issue? Or, man, I didn't know they were doing that. I didn't know they were cleaning the oceans like that. Like, they're actually building artificial corals, like they're rebuilding the ocean floor.
Yeah.
What? It's like, man, that's fascinating. So that's how you come across new companies and new problems. And so after this new company solving that problem that you did not know they existed, and you just fall in love with, like, oh my God, this company is doing what? I grew up thinking about this. When I was a kid, I used to go snorkeling, and you're like, okay, totally purpose driven now. I have to be in that company.
It gives you such an advantage to be able to talk about it. Okay, this one I love. Limit your competition because you hit it on the head at the beginning. How it's a super competitive market. It's a different market than you and I entered a long time ago. Dive in. I'm all ears on
I
this.
want to dive in. So this is the third and last topic. This is where the juicy stuff is. So after, again, we talked about mindset, how to improve our communication by the topics, how we prioritize those topics of conversation, how we come across verbally, written, verbally, and with video or in person. Now you got to change your strategy. How do we actually go out there to get the interviews? How do we get the interviews? So how do I job search? So my question first for you is, are you job searching backwards? Chances are you are. I would say 95% out of 100 people watching
Hmm.
this, 95 are job searching backwards. And backwards is in the opposite direction that employers hire. Whenever an opportunity becomes available, let's say Doug is an engineer manager, whether one of Doug's engineers quits and goes to another company or gets promoted, goes to a different team, or just goes from a junior to intermediate to senior role. So there's a vacancy as another junior, or Doug just needs another engineer. They got a new project, his current team can't handle it. They just need one more. So someone left, someone got promoted, or we need one more of that person. There are three different ways a job is created. Opportunities given to internal promotions, lateral moves, a temporary worker becomes full-time, a part-timer becomes full-time permanent, and 10, 15, 20% depends on the company, its size, and how flexible they are. Positions are filled internally. If that doesn't work, company starts looking for referrals. They ask their existing staff for connections and contacts. The good old referral program, the most successful, impactful, quickest. From an employer's point of view, it doesn't cost them anything and it's pretty quick. And they trust that person. So if I'm in Doug's team and Doug's known me for 3 years and I've been working for him as a junior engineer or immediate engineer, and I refer someone else that I know, there's already a trust link. There's a relationship there. So I would never refer someone to my boss if I don't already trust him or her. So Doug can trust me and trust that person with more confidence. So that hire can be made quickly. If that doesn't
Yeah.
work, the company starts networking. Number one platform for networking, it's been for many years, is LinkedIn. Very successful program. A good like 20-25% of people are just contacted. So it doesn't cost a lot of money. You could have a premium LinkedIn account. You don't really have to. And we take control of the process. I can sit here today and do research all day, message a bunch of people, have interviews ready for tomorrow as a recruiter. So it's pretty quick. The cost is very, very low. And by this point, good 70% of jobs, sometimes 80% of jobs are filled already. Like you and I would never know about that position becoming available. If those hiring programs, if they also fail, and I want you to really acknowledge what kind of position would that have to be. We used to call these ones hard to fill roles. So it's either a highly advanced set of skill that is scarce. It is a skill that is extremely in demand. So anybody who has that skill, they already have a job. They're not going to leave their job. They're making a lot of money. Like good luck recruiting an AI engineer these days.
Hmm.
Whatever they are, they're making good money. They're not leaving. They're doing cool work or remote locations. I don't want to go work in Bakersfield, California. It's in the middle of nowhere. I like to be in San Francisco. I don't want to go work in northern Alberta, in Yellowknife, Alberta. It's minus 50 degrees. I don't want to go there. So those are the positions that it's really tough to get a referral, get someone internally to go there, or find someone through word of mouth or networking. So we either use professional associations, professional engineering groups, associations for mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, or we would just outsource it to a recruiting agency and or just advertise online.
Hmm.
So most jobs don't make it to a recruiting agency. Most jobs don't make it online. And the ones
Interesting.
that do are pretty hard to fill. They've tried other easy, free stuff, fast ways to recruit that person. They haven't been able to. So now you find it online. Now it's on Indeed. Now it's on Glassdoor. Now it's on that company's website. You're assuming, oh, a job just became available. Like, no, newsflash, it was available a long time ago, 3 weeks ago. And so much work has been done in the last 3 weeks. You might not like to hear it, but some cases that job's already been filled. We're just
Yeah.
advertising it for the heck of advertising it. So we show that, hey, we're growing, we're hiring. But they've already picked the person.
That's
Like Doc
amazing.
they already know who they want to hire.
I've only been out of the corporate world for a few years now, and this is just eye-opening to me. It's changed so much in just a few years, to my knowledge at least. It's almost like an engineering software. It's like there's a new rev or something every year that you got to keep up on. It's really emphasizing to me the point of like personal branding and learning from experts like you and hearing what do you need to know, because it's like if you're an engineer, you shouldn't have to be an expert at this stuff. You should be good at doing your engineering job and doing the things that you need to do to be successful in your career. That's why I think it's great that people like you, Nader, are teaching engineers so that they don't get blindsided by these things and get stuck in neutral in their career. This is really eye opening to me.
Again, I bring both perspectives in there. I've been on the other side. This is how I used to job search. I didn't even know there was a thing called recruiting agencies. I was just online, apply online, go to Google, electronics engineering jobs, Toronto.
Yeah.
You send like 30 resumes every day, not realizing that another 1,000 people submitted a resume to the same jobs. So we want to switch things around, go and align our job search strategies with recruitment strategies. I call this modern recruitment strategies, but it's not really modern anymore because it's been like a decade that these programs are being implemented with the invention and the dominance of social media platforms, mostly LinkedIn being the leader on top of that, which allows the company to develop their own brand, hence employer branding, allows them to promote themselves. So it's not just their website, because website is employer branding, but all they can do is just post an advertisement and collect resumes. And that is costly, that is not effective. On
Mhm.
social media, they can engage, they can post, they can comment. There's videos, they can have fun, they can celebrate their success, they can highlight their own employees. They can do so much to brand yourself as a great place to work on social media. So it's all about engagement. The more time we spend with the candidate and engage with that candidate on top of that funnel, the hiring funnel, the more candidates are attracted to us. Hence the
Mm.
power of social media or LinkedIn. And that is where they begin to source their candidates. They
Mm.
won't tell you, but they know, okay, this person is a follower and a true fan, likes and comments a lot,
Mm.
engages with us, has made connections with our existing employees, so has a lot of connections in our company. That's where social recruiting comes in. They begin to contact directly or ask existing members. If I'm following Doug's company, but I have 4 connections in his team, in his company, Doug's probably going to go and ask those people, hey, I see you're connected with that because you
Yeah.
two work together, you go to the same school. So that's social recruiting. And then they bring the candidate into the candidate CRM. They still haven't contacted you yet. You still have
I
no idea you're being recruited.
I did this too. A person apply years ago, and there was no one on my team that knew him, but I saw 3 people that they were connected with on LinkedIn as me, so I reached out to them, acquaintances, and I said, "Hey, I'm interviewing this candidate. Do you have any thoughts?" "Oh, yeah, he worked here. He was great." There's a big head start for that person.
Go back 100 years. You want to buy whatever, chickens. But you find another farmer who's like, oh, I see you got good chickens. Where did you get those chickens from? Whatever it is, it's human. It's human connection,
Yeah, it's real. It makes it real.
authentic. And that's only when they really let you know that, hey, that's where passive candidate nurturing is. Hey, we're interested in you. I see you're currently working. I see you're happy. We're interested in, would you be open to a conversation? Okay, you are. Okay, why don't you apply? And then we'll go through the initial screening qualification call. And then we'll take you to an interview to evaluate you. Then you go through the actual selection process where you meet our hiring manager and the VP, the leadership team. Then we actually hire you and onboard you. The main problem by just going to the top and applying to jobs online is that you just skipped 5 steps. All the steps that would allow me, the recruiter or the employer, to engage with you, to get to know you. And this is how we calculate candidate engagement, is based on the time that I've spent with you. If
Huh.
you're just going to go and apply on our website or on Indeed, I haven't spent any time. I didn't even know you. We haven't engaged at all. We haven't had those multiple interactions. You haven't liked anything. You haven't messaged me. I haven't messaged you. I haven't messaged our shared connection. There are no interactions. And I've also not seen any interest, any sustained interest from you. When they poach you, when they kind of like tap you on the shoulder, we're like, hey, we see you're following us and you've liked and commented on a few posts and you have 4 other connections in our company. What's up? What do you think? Do you like us? We're looking something like that. The structural engineer, this is how she got one of those 3
Yeah.
interviews. She was super happy. I'm like, I'm not surprised. This is literally what I told you to do last week. You know what I mean? So it's not a surprise to me, but this is how hiring is done. You're engaging with them. I told you these comments. I do this. And of course, they're going to engage with you. And yeah, go for that interview and just make sure follow up. So don't stop liking, don't stop commenting, don't stop messaging them. Here's your follow up number 1. Here's your follow up number 2. Have these messages, keep that interest, sustain that interest. So they spend more time with you. There are more those interactions, especially interactions with the hiring manager, and which is most of the times our focus. So if you look at this batch of data, I've highlighted a few of them, few of the sources, because on the left-hand side, the first column, there are a lot of different sources for hiring. From the career side to job boards, internal recruiters, referrals, internal mobility, agencies, hiring managers, different types of campaigns, social media, like all this stuff. But if you look at the big chunk of data, like a full year of data like this on one platform, and you look at the number of applications, there's about 13 million people who applied. Surely most of the people got hired through the career site and job board, 69,000 and 45,000. But don't get fooled by that, because you have to also compare that with the number of applications that were submitted, 4.9 million and 7 million. So
Oof.
if you just do the math and look at the probability of success or effectiveness, look at the success rate. It's a game you're playing. Don't pay the lottery, play the game where you have a higher chance of success. I take a 19% chance of success over 0.3% any day.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer when you look at it this way, and, wow, this really puts it into perspective, but it makes sense. Everything I'm hearing from people is just how confusing this job market is, and how do you find opportunities, and how do you get in the door? I don't think it used to be like that, but it clearly is today, and this sums it up. This really explains it well.
I kept the best for last. This slide is really good. I know I have highlighted 5 different things in order, but frankly, when I coach someone, I assign them in 1 hour of job searching, like on 3 days a week. If they want to do more, do more.
Right.
Number one, with hiring managers,
Yeah.
we
Sorry about
spend
that.
45 minutes out of an hour contacting hiring managers directly, 10 minutes contacting internal recruiters. That's number two. And number three, the last 5 minutes is the engagement. So few likes, few comments, one post. That's it. Number four, which is referrals, it's an expected outcome. It's part of the process. You naturally, as you're making connections, as you're engaging online, you get referred to positions. Interesting enough, there's going to be a lot of referrals we get from the hiring manager to the recruiter, which is the most powerful referral you can get, because
Mhm.
like the hiring manager referred you to me, I'm going to call you right now. It
Yeah.
says one of our engineers referred you to me. Big difference,
Yeah.
which is why the
It's huge.
success rate you see the referrals is 4.66%. If I contact the recruiter directly, 6.6. If I contact the hiring manager, is 19.35. So this is where influence comes in. This is
Yeah.
what makes the big difference in terms of who's contacting, who's making decisions on me. Is it the hiring manager or not? And then what kind of conversations I have with him or her, and then how am I coming across? What do I say? What do I focus on? It goes back to the mindset and the communication styles that we talked about.
This is certainly eye-opening, and it all makes sense to me. I'm keeping this up so people can see this is how you can contact Nader. His email here and his LinkedIn. He's all over LinkedIn all the time, giving away tips. He's on LinkedIn Lives. Whether you're looking for a new job, whether you're looking to level up and apply up for a new role, he's definitely a guy you want to keep in touch with. Before we break off, I have a few questions for you. For someone who's trying to apply up, what is your best advice? And with all this context that you just provided us with, how do you get that job that I've not been in this role before? What is the number one piece of advice you'd give them?
Pick your target right. Definitely has to be the right company. You must have direct product experience. You must be in the same realm. You cannot go from an individual contributor to a manager. I know there are anomalies, but we're talking about common successes. Now you're in a leadership role, in a management role. You cannot go there and work on a product that you've never worked before. You should already have the technical engineering stuff, design stuff, product stuff, solution stuff. You've already done that. You're kind of like tired of doing that stuff. You're tired of doing it alone. You're so confident and competent that you want to now help a team. So you want to improve the productivity and performance and speed up launches, go into new product development where you already have previous developing experience with products in a similar category, but maybe a competitor's
Hmm.
product. When you want to go from individual contributor to a manager, target your competitors. Go after it in the same niche, in the same category. That's number one. So that's how you pick your companies. You got to put your emotions out and look at it a bit more logically. Number two, if you want to be a manager, your contact is a director. You cannot be calling managers. That's your competitor. Contact the person, your hiring manager is a director, is a VP. If you want to be a director, then you should be contacting VPs and C-level executives and founders. So it's always a clear, like major level up. If you're a director, they've been a director like 8 years ago. Now they've been a VP for 3, 4 years. They're hiring directors. They have directors reporting to them. You got to follow that hierarchy. Then the conversations you're having and the problems you're talking about solving are the problems that I would say that VP has. Because as a director, I'm helping my VP solve his problems or her problems. The VP hands down problems to me as a
Yeah.
director. So that is really important. As a manager, for example, going back to individual contributor to a manager, the manager is responsible for managing a team. That's where
Right.
influence comes. You want to influence the director, talk about how
Yeah.
you're going to solve his problems.
Tap
Like,
you tap right into their core. You're basically like
so,
associating you with the solution, and that's a
yeah,
good place
what
to be.
is their pain? What is keeping them up at night? What do they need to, where do they want to get? How can you help them get to where they want to get? Go
Yeah.
above and beyond. Help that person fall in love with you as a coworker.
This is brilliant advice. How should our viewers get in touch with you?
We talked about LinkedIn a lot, so let's keep conversations on LinkedIn. We can actually exchange audio messages on LinkedIn, so we can be a lot more effective in terms of how we
All
communicate.
that.
And at the same time, we grow our network. I have a massive network that would love to invite everyone to, and lots of connections and opportunities that come my way.
Thank you for sharing all this wisdom with everybody. And for those of you watching, I think a big part of interviewing is just making a positive first impression. And if you want to learn how to make a positive first impression with anybody, be sure to watch my episode called How to Make a Positive First Impression with Anybody. I'll include a link to that in the description of this episode. And I'll also include a link to how you can get in touch with Nader in the episode description. Thanks for watching.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Doug.